Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and today I thought we'd sneak in an extra video all about Double Game Week 29 players because I've not spoken too much in great detail about the players I like specifically for Double Game Week 29. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go through the fixtures, then we're going to go team by team of the players I like from each of those teams, and then at the end of the video we're going to have a look at the best of all of the players playing a Double Game Week this week. Who are the best ones? All to come today, guys. So if you do enjoy what you see today, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe if you're new around here. But without further ado, let's have a look at the Double Game Week fixtures. Okay, Game Week 29. These are the 6 teams that have a Double Game Week this week. They're not as good as last week's Double Game Weeks. They're not as good as the Double Game Weeks from a few weeks ago as well. But they are still pretty good, and there are still some nuggets of interest in here. We've got Arsenal against Leicester and Liverpool, Brighton against Liverpool and Spurs, Everton against Wolves and Newcastle, Liverpool against Brighton and Arsenal, Newcastle against Chelsea and Everton, and Spurs against Man United and Brighton. And that is the doubles. But I'm going to rearrange these. I just want to rearrange these quickly in order of the teams I think we should most target. So I think we should be targeting Liverpool first and foremost, all the way down to Brighton, who I don't think we should be targeting at all, really. I like the look of these Liverpool fixtures a little bit. I know people are kind of saying Brighton away, Arsenal away. That's a kind of tough duo. But Brighton have been in some of the worst form of any team in the Premier League recently. They've really been doing so bad. So I do think Brighton is actually going to be a pretty easy fixture, not just for Liverpool, but also for Spurs. Also, Liverpool against Arsenal. You've got to remember that although Arsenal away, difficult fixture in general, you've got to remember that Arsenal play very, very poorly against the top teams. They just do not perform against the top teams at all. And last time Liverpool played against Arsenal, the score was 4-0 to Liverpool. So Liverpool, you know, the really good chance of getting something out of both of these games. I think these fixtures are a little bit easier than perhaps you would have initially thought. Similar thing with Spurs, their fixtures against Manchester United, for example. Not that hard, really, if you think about it. I know it's typically a tough fixture, but you've got to think about how bad Man United have been recently. Arsenal have got Leicester and Liverpool, which I think is a slightly tougher duo than actually Liverpool and Spurs have got. We actually probably initially thought that Arsenal had a maybe slightly easier double, but actually I think they've, you know, Liverpool and Spurs are a little bit easier. Newcastle looks okay just because we've got Everton in there and we know how bad Everton are. Everton's fixtures, Wolves again and Newcastle, they actually have the 2 best fixtures, but they are just so bad at the moment that, you know, they're not a team we can really target. And finally, Brighton, the only team that has been in worse form than Everton recently, and they've got a horrible double of Liverpool and Spurs, so that's going to be super tough for them. So with that said, guys, let's have a look through each of the teams and identify some players that we're interested in. And just before we do, a quick guide on the kind of measuring system I'm using for picking players. So I'm picking all players from the 6 teams. We've got them split them kind of into 3 categories. I've kind of labelled it into 3 categories each of the players in this video. So we've got essential players, solid Game Week 29 must-have options, optional players, potential Game Week 29 sleeper options there, and some punts, some Game Week 29 punts. There are some players that you could probably consider that are not mentioned in this video, but they are pretty risky. If they're not in this video, is because they are pretty risky and I'm not fully comfortable, you know, kind of advising you guys to go for them, basically. But let's start with Liverpool. Let's have a look at their best players to go for this week. So no surprise here, guys, the top pick from Liverpool is Salah. Absolutely essential for this game week, a real captain option as well, a player we definitely want to be not just thinking about going for, but definitely going for. If you still don't have Salah in your team, make sure you've got him in. Alexander-Arnold, I know a lot of you guys are going to have anyway, but Salah, certainly you need to have him. You're probably going to want to captain him as well. There is one other captain option, I guess, that we could cover just in a moment. But Salah, super essential. I think outside of Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold, the best option is probably going to be Robertson, just because his ceiling is so high at the moment. He's being so creative. He's arguably actually a better asset than Alexander-Arnold at the moment. But because Alexander-Arnold is just, you know, so highly owned, it's so risky to not own Trent. So for that reason, we do put Trent as a slightly more essential player. But Robertson, you know, absolutely incredible at the moment, and you know, is more than matching Trent. We've also got Mane and Jota there as punts as well. If you want to go for those punts, you know, there's slight concern that maybe there'll be a little bit of rotation with those 2 players, but I think it could be a good. Mane I actually really like as a pick, but the problem is, the reason why he's a punt is because if you are spending all that money on Mane, it means you're going to have to sacrifice some serious other players in your team that you're really going to want. And Mane is definitely a punt compared to some of the other players in his price range that you would be pairing up as your premium with Salah, i.e., Kane and Son. So if you're going to go for Mane instead of a Kane or a Son, then you are taking a punt really there. Jota, slight rotation risk there as well. I mean, I guess the players missing from this list are Diaz, Van Dijk. Van Dijk is a reasonably solid pick. I think I would prefer Robertson and just spend the extra little bit of money and go for Robertson instead. But we have, of course, got Diaz as well, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are absolutely screaming at me, telling you want me to advise you to go for Diaz. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to advise you to do that. That is a pick that if you want to take that risk, you've got to do so, off your own back, because that is a serious risk to see how that one will play out. But anyway, that's Liverpool done. That is the players I recommend for Liverpool. Let's have a look at Spurs. So again, no surprise here. The top pick from Spurs is Harry Kane. Hopefully he can get something from the Manchester United and Brighton games here. I do prefer Kane to Son. That is a fact. I'm not going to deny that. But I don't want you guys to think that Kane is, head and shoulders above Son. I'm seeing a lot of people, around the community selling Son in order to get Kane. And I'm not sure if I fully agree with that. Particularly people taking a -4s, -8s to sell Son in order to get Kane. Please do not think that Kane is that much better than Son, because I really do not think that's the case. On another day, I know Kane got a really good score against Everton. On another day, Son will be the guy to get that really big score. There's really not much in the two players. There really isn't. So don't forget about Son. He is still a really good option. I know you guys are probably going to desperately want Kane, but if you've already got Son, that's pretty good. And I know it's going to be very difficult to get Salah, Kane and Son. This is the absolute nightmare that we're dealing with at the moment. Basically, Kane, Son and Salah are all essential players, and yet it's almost impossible to have all three. But there we go, guys. Aside from Kane and Son, who are the really obvious options for Spurs, I do like Kulusevski a lot. I think he's an optional player. There is a slight risk that he may get rested in one of the two games, but he's been playing so well that he is first choice for Spurs. There's no doubt about that. But you do have that slight worry about rotation. Similarly with Doherty, you do think maybe Doherty is going to be rotated a little bit, but he looks absolutely amazing at the moment. Really, really good. Getting goal returns, getting clean sheets occasionally with Spurs as well, so that's really nice. And I've also put Ben Davies here as a punt as well, just because he's so cheap. If you guys are just looking to get in on the clean sheet points at Spurs, then Davies is your answer. A real cheap option there. But if you can push your budget a little bit and go for Doherty instead, I think that's going to be a really good option for you. Now we've got Arsenal up against Leicester and Liverpool. Two pretty tough games. I mean, two teams that honestly are not teams that Arsenal typically perform well against. So that's why I don't have too many essential players here. But I do think if one player is essential for this game week for Arsenal, it has to be Saka, right? Real nice, cheap player. Super nailed on the kind of hub of both creativity and kind of shooting at the moment as well for Arsenal. Their best attacking player right now. Arguably Arsenal's best player, full stop. Playing absolutely amazing, doing bits. We really like the look of Saka a lot at the moment. I put Ramsdale here as optional as well, because we know that Ramsdale picks up clean, not just clean sheet points, but save points really nicely and bonus points as well because of his distribution. So Ramsdale is a really nice pick. If you guys are probably going to already have him. If you don't already have him, then maybe I would not consider buying him unless you're on a wild card. But certainly Saka is really good. Ramsdale is kind of an optional player to have there. And aside from that, the Arsenal players really are kind of a little bit punty, because this is not a super good double game week. And Leicester, I know you guys are probably thinking Leicester worst defence in the league. They have shown some signs of improvement recently, Leicester, I have to say. So I don't think they're just going to concede 4 or 5 goals. They're a bogey team for Arsenal anyway, so I don't really know what's going to happen here. But Lacazette is a punt just because he's so expensive. He really is a lot of money for what you get. Odegaard, he looks like a pretty decent punt because he is so cheap. And Ben White, because he's so cheap, you can't really go wrong with Ben White there as well. people probably screaming at your screens, you know, what about the other Arsenal defenders? You can go for some other Arsenal defenders, but, you know, do you really want to spend a lot of money on an Arsenal defender? Leicester and Liverpool, there's going to be goals conceded here most likely, so, you know, I wouldn't be too bullish about going for a lot of Arsenal defenders, really. And the other players you probably are thinking about are Martinelli and Smith Rowe, but you kind of answered your own question. If you're considering both Martinelli and Smith Rowe, you kind of recognise that the two are going to rotate. I imagine that one plays each of the games over the double game week, and we really do want to focus on players who are a little bit more nailed on. Why go for a Martinelli or a Smith Rowe when you can go for a Saka? It makes more sense to go for a Saka. If you really want to double up, then that would be a point where you maybe bring in Odegaard, Smith Rowe, Martinelli into the mix, but I think Odegaard is the best option from the slightly cheaper of the Arsenal midfielders anyway. So there we go. That is the Arsenal review for Game Week 29. Newcastle is a kind of interesting one. Like I said, this is all about the Everton fixture, really, and any points gained in the Chelsea game are just kind of bonus. There's two players I like from Newcastle for Game Week 29, and those players are the two midfielders, Willock and Fraser. We've got the second half of the first Newcastle double game week tonight as I record this video. Fraser currently is leading the way by a long margin, but Willock obviously is a fantastic player and a fantastic option, and I don't think he should be ignored just because Fraser kind of outscored him last week. But Fraser is, again, a little bit cheaper, so maybe you consider Fraser for that reason as well. But Willock, Fraser, definitely two options. I wonder about if Fraser is going to get slightly worse as an FPL option when Sam Maximan comes back into the Newcastle team. That's the only reason why I wouldn't say Fraser is head and shoulders above Willock. But, you know, take your pick out of those two. Those are the two best options, both midfielders as well, both really, really well priced. I like them a lot. But we also got, if you fancy a punt, Sam Maximan. You know, he's 6.8 million, which is quite a lot of money for what you get from him, I think. I think he should really be more of a 6.5 million forward. But he is coming back into the Newcastle team. He could do pretty well. Dubravka and Shah, I mean, there is potential points to be grabbed at Everton. You know, maybe a clean sheet here. And these two players are just so super cheap that you can't really go wrong with a Dubravka. You can't really go wrong with a Shah just because they are so cheap. So these are the players I like from Newcastle the most. Maybe there's some other options that you could consider, but these are definitely my favourite ones. Everton have a double game week against Wolves and Newcastle. Good fixtures, bad team, bad players. Really difficult to pick from Everton. Now, the only two players I'm kind of remotely interested in, short-term, long-term, whatever, from Everton are Pickford and Gordon. And I'm not really interested in them anyway. But I have picked out Pickford and Gordon just because they're quite cheap. Pickford, you know, potential for save points. Gordon, really, really cheap and seemingly nailed on in this Everton team. And what I will tell you guys is, although I'm not really convinced about going for Everton players at all for this game week, I'm really not convinced about it at all. What I will say is that Everton have a lot of double game weeks coming up, and they'll probably come reasonably soon as well. So expect a lot of double game weeks coming up for Everton very, very soon. And if that is the case, it might actually be worth picking up one of these players, particularly if we're kind of seeing 3 Everton double game weeks within the space of 4 game weeks. I don't know, there is possibility, even if you're just picking up 2 points for playing in each game, you know, that's 4 points as a baseline. That's all I want to say. I just wanted to highlight that to you guys. There could be a lot of Everton doubles, and if so, these are the 2 players I would consider. As for Game Week 29, if I'm completely honest with you guys, I'm not really looking at Everton at all for this game week. And our final team is Brighton, a team in really bad form and a team with 2 horrible fixtures. So Brighton not looking too good. So the only player I can really think of that, you know, is even remotely worth considering is Veltman at 4.2 million. He is super cheap. But, you know, Brighton not really keeping clean sheets anyway. You're not really expecting any clean sheets over these 2 games. But, you know, Veltman for 4.2 million, you can guarantee yourself 4 points, I suppose, from this double game week, and you know, maybe there's a chance of a goal return or a clean sheet. There's like the tiniest ever chance, but still a tiny chance, I guess. So, you know, in terms of value for money, you could do a lot worse than Veltman, but again, Brighton not a team I'm convinced by in this double game week at all, and not convinced by them going forward either, because we're not expecting Brighton to have any more double game weeks this season. Well, they probably won't get any more double game weeks this season anyway. So, yeah, Brighton are pretty much a team we can basically ignore for the rest of the season, with the perhaps exception of Veltman, just because he is so cheap. Guys, let's conclude with the top picks for Game Week 29. So this is in order and I'm just guessing here, this is just my personal opinion, if I was to order who is the most likely to score the most points in Game Week 29, these are the top 8 players who I think will score so many points in Game Week 29. I'm expecting a lot from these players. So Salah, no surprise, is at the top, followed by Harry Kane. Then I'm going to put Son next, Trent in 4th, so I think Trent will get the 4th most amount of points here. Then I'm going to put in Saka there, and then I'm going to put in Robertson, Kulusevski and Doherty are at the bottom there as well. So yeah, I don't know if that list means anything to you, but these are definitely my favourite players for the game week with their fixtures next to them as well. You know, they're all from, they're pretty much all from Liverpool and Spurs, with one Arsenal player in there in Saka. What do you make to this? Who do you think are going to be the top scoring players for Game Week 29? I think these guys. And that is the end of the video. That is everything I have to say about the Double Game Week 29 players, I guess, that I like the look of. Hopefully this is going to help you out a little bit. You can identify some players that you quite like the look of. Maybe it helps you with captaincy decisions, or, which transfers you want to use, or maybe you're on a wild card and you're trying to identify some Game Week 29 players. I don't know. Hopefully it's helpful. If it was, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe as well if you're new around here. I do want to say, guys, if you haven't checked out my chip strategy video I made yesterday, do go check it out. It is so useful. I had so much, I found it so useful just to make the video. So I'm really hoping that it's really going to help you out, give you some new information, and give you a real layout of the rest of the season, and let you know what's going on with the rest of the season, the key events, the double game weeks, the blanks that are coming up. Do definitely recommend it. Uploaded yesterday, last night, so do go check that out. Definitely recommend it. Aside from that, guys, we've got 100 experts still to come, probably today. We've got a team selection. That'll be tomorrow on Friday, and we'll do a deadline stream on Saturday. So there we go, guys. Thanks once again for watching, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.